And good day, Nania.
We have some questions from our streaming viewers that we'd like to ask you.
All right, please proceed however you so desire.
Well, many people are experiencing anxiety about four main things.
Yes.
First is the fear of their own death. The second is uncertainty about the future and financial uncertainty. The third is fear that things will get even crazier and worse in the world. And fourth, that conspiracy theories about why this is happening are also a fear that comes up for people. So how can we respond to these fears? What should we tell ourselves when these fears come up? What do you suggest?
All right. Well, first and foremost, let us deal with the fourth proposition of what you call the conspiracy theories. The main thing going on with regard to the present situation on your planet has mostly to do, not so much with anything that has been done deliberately, specifically with regard to the virus itself, but with regard to the destruction, as we have said in the monologue, of many of the different ecological systems on your planet. If there is any so-called conspiracy, it is mostly the idea that people on your planet, from fear-based beliefs and from fear of lack, and from the idea of what they believe to be power that is not an expression of power, will conspire to do certain things that have destructive qualities that will eliminate many of the ecological systems on your planet, and have done so, in which these viruses propagate, and by which they are usually contained, at least to a certain degree. But the conspiracies of greed that create the disappearance of certain systems on your planet that these viruses inhabit forces them to go beyond those borders and beyond those barriers in a far greater way than they otherwise would have, seeking out new hosts. The virus is a natural virus. It has, over time, mutated in a variety of ways, but it is not in that sense human-made. So the conspiracy doesn't have to do with the idea of a deliberate release of a man-made virus. It has to do with the idea of the conspiracies that exist in many of your organizations, many of your political and social systems that allow fear of lack and greed to overtake your better nature and cause the destruction of many of the ecosystems on your planet that then allow for the propagation of opportunistic organisms such as this virus to take hold in much broader areas than they otherwise would. This has to do also with the concept of what you call climate change. That is also a side effect of the destruction of certain ecological systems on your planet, on land, in the air, in the sea. And you will find that many of the plants that still remain on your planet are now going to be, in a sense, migrating through seed propagation in different directions than they otherwise normally inhabit. Many of your plants are now moving more northerly and more westerly in order to survive. And the areas in which they were growing will no longer be capable of supporting certain kinds of natural plants or even the foodstuffs that you may choose to grow. This will add to the ability of the virus to propagate itself in broader ranges than it used to. Now, as we also said in the monologue, the idea now that you are isolating yourselves is a perfect positive opportunity to go within, to use this time of self-isolation and social distancing to get in touch with the fear-based beliefs that may exist within your own individual selves, so that you can clean yourselves out of these ideas and pass through the eye of the needle more effortlessly and come out on the other side with an energy that creates more opportunity and more probability to begin to build a new world, a new way of doing things that is more representative of restoring the balance that your planet once had. This may still take some time, and things may still be a little crazy, and may even get a little crazier. But please remember that crazy doesn't have to be experienced in a negative way. There is positive crazy too, or at the very least, opportunities that will present themselves. And even though those opportunities may sometimes be reflective of things you don't prefer, by using this isolation period to go within, strengthen yourselves, balance yourselves, free yourselves of all the fear-based beliefs that you possibly can, you will be far more capable of handling anything that you may see on the other side of the passage through the eye of the needle that you don't prefer. And as we have said many times, you may still see things you don't prefer, people making choices that you don't prefer in your world for quite some time. But the idea, again, is that with the splitting prism idea that you're now fracturing into different parallel realities, it is an important thing for you to do to settle into the understanding that just because you can see people making choices you don't prefer, you're not living in that world. You are observing them through a kind of glass wall, a separation barrier that may allow you to see those choices being made that you don't prefer, but won't necessarily allow you to be affected by those choices if you don't actually make the choice to match those negative frequencies and create the effect within your own reality. These things cannot reach you if you don't make a decision to match or mirror them in the reality that you reside in, that you prefer. The idea, therefore, is even though you may see a great deal of chaos around you, as we said before in the transmission called the eye of the storm, is to remain in the center, in the calm space, which you have given yourselves a better opportunity to do because of your own self-isolation. Treat it as a monastic experience, a meditative experience, an opportunity to take the time to go within and divest yourself of all the things that would, in any way, shape, or form, cause you to want to match the vibrations of things that you don't prefer, so that you can come out the other side of the passage, in a sense, more streamlined, a little bit cleaner, a little bit more stable with your indestructible core, and know that no matter what you see around you, there is nothing to fear, for fear is the thing that will cause you to mirror the vibrations you don't prefer. Stay in your center, stay in that center, the eye of the storm, as you pass through the eye of the needle, and you will find that you will be more capable of accelerating on the other side of this experience in a way that will allow you to experience more synchronicity in a positive way, more effortless of communication between your physical and higher mind, and will put you in a state where you can much, much more willingly and much, much more capably move forward in a way that will allow you to eventually experience the reality that you prefer.
Okay, that's very helpful. This idea of becoming aware of the suffering of others, as you were just mentioning.
Yes.
What is the purpose of that in terms of our own development, to be aware of it? And does that mean that we should take action to respond to it?
Again, action is the language of physical reality. So even in this time of self-isolation, there may be many actions you can take to be a living example of positive choices that other people who may be suffering may also choose to take. Now, it doesn't mean that they all will, but you can at least give them the opportunity by being a living example of making more positive choices and taking actions, whatever actions can be taken, that show them there are other ways to do things. There may be other ways to experience what they're going through. Even though you're isolated, you have this now device that we are communicating with you through, and there are many creative things you can do. You can donate your time, you can donate your abilities, you can donate your money, you can create new ideas, you can create new organizations, you can share new ideas for how to come out the other side of this in ways that can boost people up, let them know that there may be other options other than what they may have considered in their negative states of suffering. But by all means, it's not about ignoring them. By all means, it's using those lessons to improve yourselves, to recognize that they may be doing this to help you realize more clearly what it is you don't prefer to choose. And therefore, you can feed that back and reflect that back to them, what it is you are learning about yourself by experiencing their suffering, and give them the opportunity to know there are other choices, that there is always the idea you call hope, and that they can elevate themselves to a point where their own imaginations can allow them more inspiration and more creativity to bring themselves through this experience in a more positive way. So by all means, self-isolation doesn't mean that you can do nothing, that you have to ignore them, that you have to in any way, shape, or form reinforce their negativity, which would only increase their suffering, but show them the brighter side. Show them the options. Again, it doesn't mean that they have to make those choices, for you always have to let people make the choices they need to make, for you do not know what their path truly is. And what it is they do with the information and options that you share with them is really none of your business. But by all means, take the actions, because as we have said, that is the strongest way to speak and the strongest way to be heard in physical reality. So at least you're giving them the opportunity to know there are other paths that they could be taking.
Okay, well, that's really helpful. And also, you've been talking about the splitting prism and the trains leaving the station.
Well, the trains have left.
Yeah, is this like just the beginning, or is there going to be many more years of this, or will it calm down?
Well, there will be many more years of transformational experience. There won't be many more years of this specific manifestation. And again, those that are willing to shift their vibration more and more by letting go of those negative fear-based beliefs having to do with lack or lack of self-worth or anything like that, will be the ones that can align themselves with a more positive and more accelerated reality that will take them more quickly through the various parallel realities, where they can eventually experience a reality that they prefer by having shifted to it, by making those vibrational changes within themselves. So yes, the transformation will go on for a while, but you'll go beyond the idea of this particular expression of it, but you still have many different consequences of the choices you have made to face, and many different kinds of opportunities to turn them around into a world of more balance. So yes, the transformation is going to go on for a few more years, but there will be different challenges and different opportunities. And if you face them from a more positive place, you will get through them in a more effortless and joyful and creative way. That is guaranteed as long as you match the frequency and have the behaviors that exhibit the kind of behaviors that you would already be doing in the reality you already prefer.
So does that mean that there will come a time when it'll be more difficult to change trains, in a sense? And when would that be?
It can be experienced that way, but only if someone is doing that through the idea of fear-based beliefs. Sometimes people may take themselves through greater challenges, but still have the capacity to shift instantly into a more positive reality if facing those greater challenges of negativity was the path they needed to take to give themselves the momentum they needed to go into the positive reality more quickly. So this is not a generalization that may be true for everyone. It may be something that people may find will be experienced in a more difficult way to change farther up the line, but only if they continue on the path of creating more or buying into more negative and fear-based beliefs. Because remember, the fear-based beliefs over time will perhaps make it even not available to you to even realize that you can change. That's one of the side effects of fear-based beliefs, is actually removing the option and the awareness that there is always the opportunity to change. That's what makes it more challenging. It's not in and of itself that it is more challenging to shift, but it is more challenging if you don't know that that's an option.
Yes, I understand.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, can you talk to us about 5G and the positive and negative aspects of this technology?
The positive aspects are that if it is tuned to the proper frequencies and the proper harmonics, it will aid and assist you in the development of artificial intelligence on your planet in a very specific way. However, if it is not tuned properly, if it is discordant, out of phase with itself, it can have some detrimental effects upon the electromagnetic field, the biomagnetic field of your body, and can cause a diminishment within the immunological systems of your body. So the idea is that it must be tuned properly to the proper harmonics to be actually experienced in a positive way. So it's not that in and of itself, 5G is a negative thing, but it must be done in a positive way with great understanding and great precision in order to actually be experienced in a beneficial way for the creation of positive and beneficial artificial intelligence on your world.
Okay, that's good to know. Another question that's come up has to do with self-worth.
Yes.
Many people find on their journey that they think they have achieved a certain level of self-valuation.
Yes.
And then they will find a circumstance comes up that triggers them to devalue themselves or to feel that they have really not accomplished a full recognition of their self-worth.
All right. Well, the first and most paradoxical thing to remember when confronted with issues of lack of self-worth is first and foremost to own it as a choice that you made in experiencing that idea. Because the second you own it, instead of regretting that it's coming up, you are empowered to deal with it, empowered to do something to change it. So it's only the denial of the fact that it comes up, the resistance to the fact that it comes up, that actually makes it stick around and reoccur. Remember that many people, even when they deal with certain issues of self-worth, may test themselves to make sure they have changed. So if you test yourself and trigger yourself by attracting a situation that makes you face the idea that you may not still allow yourself to feel worthy, then you are still reacting the same old way. You're testing yourself to see if you're going to change and respond differently, even if that gets triggered. But the first step toward getting around that is to not deny or resist that it came up, but to acknowledge that you chose it. Because by acknowledging that you chose to experience lack of self-worth, again, that keeps you in the seat of self-empowerment to be able to explore it and do something about changing it. And with enough practice, you will get used to the idea that you no longer need to do that, because you will finally hone the skill of owning whatever comes up instead of resisting whatever comes up. Because remember, as we have said several times, it's not about what you experience in terms of what happens. It's about what you do with that experience that makes the difference in your world. So the first step always is to never deny or resist what happens, but to own it as something that can serve you in a positive way, to know that there's a reason that it's there, and that puts you back in the driver's seat and gives you the self-empowerment and the control to explore it in a more positive, creative, and inspirational way, and to actually have some fun with exploring why you would have chosen to trigger yourself in that way. And then more answers will come up, more ideas will surface, and you'll be on a different journey with that experience at that moment. So owning it and not resisting it is the first step.
Okay, that's very helpful. Another question that's come up is that now that people are becoming more familiar with their frequency, with your frequency,
Yes.
They were interested in knowing what your quote unquote phone number is so that they can more easily tune into your frequency.
Well, as we have said, picturing the image in a relaxed meditative state of sorts with the vibration of joy going along with the image of a black background and a black equilateral triangle separated from the black background by a deep blue light behind the triangle, peeking out around the edges of the triangle facing upward, pointing upward in your imagination, will in a sense be the vibrational phone number that will allow you to tap more effortlessly into our collective frequency consciousness. You won't necessarily be literally speaking with me, but you will be tapping into and downloading from that generalized collective frequency a vibration that will infuse your higher mind to make it more effortless for you to receive the information and the answers to your questions that you require by being in that frequency and by using our collective energy and your familiarity with us as a kind of mask through which your higher mind can speak to you more clearly. To put this very simply, by imagining that particular image of the black triangle separated from the black background by the blue light, and simply asking, if you have a question, what would Bashar say? Or what would the Sani people say? You will allow more ability of your higher mind to give you the answers and information that you see. That's how it will work.
Okay, great. Thank you. And
Yes.
lastly, what appears to some, what will be the most positive outcomes of this new world that we're building in response to what is currently happening?
By passing through the eye of the needle in a streamlined way, by having done your best to divest yourself of fear-based beliefs so that you can fit through that narrow passage, because what will be left is your true essential self, your indestructible core, as best as you possibly can, bringing as little of the negative energy with you through that passage to the other side. You will accelerate your vibration to experience more magical synchronicity. You'll be elevating your vibration to make it far more probable that you will expand your consciousness in a variety of ways and know yourself more deeply. You will expand your vibration to make it far more probable to experience open contact with us and other extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional beings in the relatively near future. And so the idea is that this is the choice that is important to make now as you pass through the eye of the needle, as you sequester yourselves in your monastic experience and use that time constructively to streamline yourselves for the passage. You will increase the likelihood and the probability of the human race that is also harmonizing with that vibration, expanding not only globally in the new earth that you will shift to, more and more reflective of the vibrational preferences you have, more and more reflective and representative of the vibrational resonance of the earth you prefer to experience, but you will expand to the stars more readily as well by initiating your half of the vibration of contact and allowing us to greet you in your harmonic state in a much more powerful way. So all of this awaits you on the other side of this passage through the eye of the needle, if you will but leave behind that baggage that no longer serves you.
Thank you, Tadeo. Our deepest love to you.
Our unconditional love to you all. Our deepest appreciation and gratitude for the co-creation of these interactions. There is more to come. And in an upcoming transmission, we are very excited to present to you an idea called the parallel reality wheel that will allow you more ability to get in touch with different options and different paths that you can choose to take that are far more representative of the parallel reality versions of Earth that you prefer to experience on the other side of this passage we have termed the eye of the needle. So we will communicate to you once again these ideas in great joy and great passion. Stay in that state of passion no matter what happens. It will see you through as the guiding light that will illuminate your particular unique path most clearly. So we thank you, our unconditional love to you, and we bid you an exciting day of exploration, self-discovery, and once again play. Please remember, as always, the first step toward true upliftment and enlightenment is to lighten up on yourselves. Don't take things too seriously. Have fun, play, and be at peace, and welcome home. And now, please prepare for the crystallization of all this information through the meditation that will be delivered to you now.